Alright, so today we are going to review our different types of graphs. And so the first thing we want to do here on our graph paper is we want to make a coordinate plane that we don't want it to take up the whole page because we want to fit several graphs on here. So just like this, remember this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. And so the first kind of equation that we're going to do is we're going to do a linear equation. A linear equation is a first degree equation. And it usually goes y equals, change that to a colon, y equals mx plus b. We call that slope-intercept form. So if I have y equals 2x plus 1, this is the example that I'm going to graph. Let me give you a minute to write that down. So this number 1, this is my y-intercept. So I go to 0, 1 and put a dot. This number 2 is my slope. So that tells me to go up 2 and over 1. And I put a dot. Or I could be on that y-intercept and I could go down 2 and to the left 1. And so these points help me to make my line, because a linear function is going to come out as a line. Now, on this same graph paper, I want to do another linear function. So I'm going to get a different color. I'm going to use red this time. And I want to graph y equals negative 2x plus 3. So the first thing I want to do is go to 0, 3. That is my y-intercept. Negative 2 is my slope. Because this is negative, I'm going to go down. So I go down 1, 2, and over 1. Down 1, 2, and over 1. And this is my line for this equation. So when my slope is positive, my graph goes up. This is called increasing. And when my slope is negative, my graph goes down, decreasing. So that's a linear function. Okay, next we're going to do quadratic. So I need another coordinate plane. If you have space next to, or if you don't have space next to, you can put yours under. I'm going to put mine next to right here. Next we're going to have the word quadratic. So a quadratic function means that our x is squared. It's to the second degree. So I'm going to do y equals x squared. And I should already know that this is going to look like a parabola, right? But I'm going to make a table of a few numbers to put in for my x and my y. So if I put a 0, 0 squared is 0. But if I put a 1, 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. But if I put a negative 1, negative 1 squared, negative times negative is positive. And if I put a 2, 2 squared is 4. But if I put a negative 2, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So I'm going to plot these 5 points to make my parabola. So 0, 0 is here. 1, 1 is here. Negative 1, 1. 2, 4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 4, sorry. And then negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this comes like this and makes a U-shaped parabola. But if I do y equals negative x squared, so write that one in a different color. And that means all of these answers are going to be negative. So it's still going to go through 0, 0. But now it's going to go through 1, negative 1. And it's going to go through 2, negative 4, negative 1, negative 1, and negative 2, negative 4. So now my parabola is going to open down. This negative made my parabola reflect over the x-axis. All right, I'm going to Okay, so the next function that we're going to look at is the absolute value function. So again, let's draw another graph. It's our x and our y. And this is named absolute value. And the absolute value looks like this. Y equals, and then it's like a little line with your x and another little line on this side. These two bars right here, these two lines, that means absolute value. And the absolute value means how far away from you how far away are you from the 0? So the absolute value is always positive when you just do the absolute value, because you are measuring a distance. So we'll make a little table, x and y. So if x is 0, how many spaces away are you from 0? 0. If x is 1, how many spaces away from 0 are you? You're 1 space away. But if you're on -1, that is also 1 space away. -1 is on the left side, +1 is on the right side, but it's just still 1 space. The absolute value of 2 is just 2. The absolute value of -2 is also 2. So when we plot these, we have 0, 0, and 1, 1, and 2, 2, and -1, -1, and -2, 2. This one looks like the letter V. Now, maybe you can guess which one I'm going to write with my red pen. In a different color, we want to graph y equals. Now we want to put a negative sign in front of the absolute value. So that means all of our absolute values are positive, but then we're going to multiply them by a negative. So a negative times a positive comes out negative. So now each one of these is going to come out negative. And our V is reflected over the x-axis. This negative made us reflect over the x-axis. That is our absolute value function. Alright, so we're going to draw another coordinate plane. And this time we are going to do the cubic function. You remember what cubic means. So this is going to be y equals x to the third power, cubic. So if I plug in some numbers, x and y, if I plug in 0, 0 times 0 times 0 is still 0. If I plug in a 1, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. If I plug in a -1, -1 times -1, that's positive, But then I times by another negative 1, that's negative 1. Now what happens if I plug in a 2? 2 cubed. 2 times 2 times 2. Right? This is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And if I plug in a negative 2, that's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's negative 8. So now let's plot this graph. It goes through 0, 0. And it goes through 1, 1. But on 2, it goes all the way up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Way up here. And then it goes through negative 1, negative 1. And then on negative 2, it goes all the way down to negative 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. So this one does a curve. Watch how it looks. It curves, and then it changes direction, and then it curves this way. And notice I'm putting arrows on all of my graphs because my graphs keep going and going. So the cubic function comes and does a curve. Well, what if I have y equals negative x cubed? If I have that, it's still going to go through 0, 0. But these answers that are positive, they're going to be times by negative, and now they're going to go down on the negatives. And these answers that were negative are going to be multiplied by a negative, and a negative times a negative is going to make a positive. And so this graph curves this way. And so if we look what is happening here, see this part right here flips, reflects over the x-axis down, and then this part reflects over the x-axis up. And that's how we do our cubic function.